Why among billions of creatures that God created did He choose a dog to send to be by your side? Not because you needed a four-legged companion, but because you needed a soul who knows how to love you more than it loves itself. God knew that humans would go through loneliness, loss, and days when the heart becomes so heavy it cannot speak. And in those moments, He sent a small creature, with eyes that know how to listen, a heart that never judges, and a love that never changes. A dog cannot speak, yet it understands you. It does not ask why you are sad, it simply rests its head on your hand, as if to say, I am here. God sent me so you know you were never truly alone. Perhaps that's why when you look into its eyes, you don't just see loyalty. You see yourself being loved in a way that only God could teach. Part 1. To teach humans about unconditional love. When God created the dog, perhaps He wanted to teach humans something we still haven't truly understood: what it means to love without reason. A dog doesn't care who you are, doesn't demand you be good, wealthy, or perfect. For them, just your existence is enough. They love you not because of what you have, but because of who you are. When you leave, they wait. When you return, they rejoice as if the whole world has been illuminated. Even if you're angry, even if you scold, even if you forget, they still turn back, wagging their tail, hoping to be near you a little longer. A dog doesn't know deceit. They only know how to love by instinct, fully and without condition. The way they forgive, quickly, gently, without words, makes us realize it turns out that forgiveness doesn't need to be taught, it only needs love. To God, a dog isn't just a pet. It is a gift, a living lesson sent down to remind us that true love doesn't need reason, doesn't need words, and never changes. In those eyes, you don't have to prove anything. They have already trusted, have chosen, and have loved you with their entire short life. Perhaps that's why among all creatures, God chose the dog to be by human side. Because only they are simple enough to understand and loyal enough to love, just as He loves us quietly, purely, and unconditionally. Part 2. To remind us that loyalty still exists. God knows that humans can change, feelings can fade, promises can be forgotten. That's why He sent a small creature, to remind us that loyalty still exists, still lives quietly in the breath of love. A dog will be by your side whether you succeed or fail, whether you are someone or have become someone else. When you leave, it sits and waits. When you return, it runs to you, tail wagging endlessly as if the universe has just reborn. It doesn't know what time is, doesn't count. Days, doesn't consider years. It only knows to wait, because in its heart you will always come back. You've heard about Hachiko the dog, who waited for his master for 9 years through rain and wind, through cold winters. But it's not just Hachiko. Every dog in the world carries in its heart a similar story, a story of loyalty that needs no oath, no reason, no reward. For humans, loyalty is a choice, but for a dog, it is its nature. They don't know betrayal, don't know leaving, don't know forgetting. And when we see that steadfast look, we seem to see God's love itself, still waiting, still believing, even though we may have lost our way many times. A dog stays by our side to teach that loyalty is not something grand. Sometimes it's simply staying by the one you love in silence over time and on days when no one else is there. Part 3. To teach us how to forgive even when hurt. When God sent a dog into this world, He didn't just intend for them to bring us joy. He wanted them to teach us how to forgive, a lesson that we humans find hardest to learn. Have you ever accidentally yelled at your dog just because you had a bad day? You forgot to feed it, brushed it aside, or shouted so that it folded its ears and shrank back. But just moments later, when you return, it still runs to you. Tail wagging, eyes bright as if all mistakes never existed. No anger, no blame, no holding on. There is only love, still whole, as if never wounded. To a dog, the past doesn't matter. Mistakes aren't worth remembering. They care only about the present, where you are still here, where they can continue to love. Humans often say forgiveness is hard. But for a dog, forgiveness is the most natural thing in the world. They don't need a reason to love again. They don't need time to get over it. They only need you to come back, and that is enough. Perhaps that is what God wants us to understand. That forgiveness isn't forgetting, but choosing to love again, even knowing you might be hurt once more. Just like the dogs, love with your whole heart, no hesitation, no defense, no fear. If humans could learn even a small part of that generosity, the world would surely be much gentler. Because when we forgive, we come a little closer to God's love, a love that knows pain, yet still chooses to love again. Part 4. To help us understand the value of presence. Without words, humans always try to comfort each other with words. When someone is sad, we say it's okay. When someone cries, we say don't worry anymore. But God knows that there are pains that cannot be soothed by language, so He sent a creature who knows how to love without speaking, the dog. They can't say a word, but they understand you better than anyone. When you are tired, they lie beside you. When you are silent, they gently place their head on your leg. No questions, no advice, no attempts to fix, only being there present with all their heart. Sometimes that is exactly what we need most. A silent presence, no demands, no conditions. In a dog's eyes, you don't need to pretend to be strong. You can be weak, you can be quiet, you can cry, and they will look at you with a peaceful gaze as though to say, I'm here and I will stay until you smile again. Dogs don't heal with words, but with the honesty of love. Their presence is a small miracle that God grants to remind us that true love doesn't need to be spoken. Just being beside someone with your whole heart is already the most beautiful comfort in the world. And maybe in that moment, between the silence, between the warm breath of a little creature lying next to you, you realize God never left. He simply chose to stay by you through the gentle eyes of a dog. Part 5. To show us what it means to love with a whole life, even if short-lived dogs don't live long. 10-15 years. That is all the life God gives them. A short time compared to humans, but in each day they love with their whole heart. From the moment they step into your life, they have already chosen you as their whole world. Each morning you are their first joy. Each evening you are the last thing they want to see before sleeping. Every glance, every breath, every tail wag, all directed at you without doubt, without a moment's hesitation. And then one day, time begins to take away the bright eyes, the nimble steps, the youthful breath. They grow older, slow down, sleep more. But one thing never weakens: their love. Even though their eyes are dim, they still watch your steps. Even though their body is weary, they still drag themselves to your side just to lie near like always. When humans see old age, they think of loss. But when dogs see old age, they think of one thing: I still have time to love. They love until their last breath, with no regrets, no demands, no repentance. Perhaps God made them like that intentionally. He gave them a short life, not because He forgot, but because He wanted to remind us that time doesn't matter. The way we love is what is eternal. A dog may leave this world earlier than we do, but its love never disappears. It remains in memories, in the scent left on your clothes, in the habit of opening the door, then pausing in expectation. And perhaps somewhere, God is smiling because He knows thanks to a dog, a human has learned how to love with their whole life, though short, yet whole beyond measure. Part 6. To show us that sometimes those souls chose us even before we were born. There are meetings that are not random. When you first look at a dog, you might think you chose it. But perhaps the truth is that it chose you long ago, before you even knew you needed a friend like that. Many believe that every dog soul carries a mission when it comes into this world. They don't just come to live, but to stay beside someone. Someone who needs to be loved, needs to be healed, or simply needs a reason to keep going. They find you at exactly the moment you are most alone, most fragile, or thinking no one understands you anymore. And then with just a gaze, a nose nudge, a gently wagging tail, your life changes. You call it fate, coincidence. But to God, nothing is accidental. He sent that very soul to that very place at that very time so that two hearts meet. One heart in need of love and a heart born only to love. When they leave, you feel an emptiness, like you've lost a part of your own soul. And perhaps you have. Because that piece of the puzzle once belonged to you long ago and will always belong to you, whether in this world or the next. Maybe one day when everything is peaceful, you will meet them again. Not in a bark, not in the old form, but in the warm, familiar feeling, flickering through your heart. That is when the soul smiles, whispers, I was here before you were born, and I will stay here until you come home. Maybe when God sent a dog into our life, He did not merely want us to gain a friend. He wanted us to learn how to love as He loves us. God loves humans with boundless patience, with forgiveness without limit. And that is why He created the dog. So they become a living mirror of that love in our small world. They love without demand, forgive without reason, stay loyal even when we've lost our way many times. They stay, though no one told them, No one forced them, no one promised. When we lose our way, they still wait. When we stumble, they come near without judging, simply resting their head on our leg. And when we cry, their wet eyes seem to contain all the sadness of the world, yet still shine with the belief that we'll be okay. God placed in a dog's heart a part of his own love so that when humans forget how to love, there is still someone to remind us by the gentlest and most honest presence. Every time we look into a dog's eyes, we don't only see love, we see the reflection of God, quiet, forgiving, unconditional, and everlasting. So when a dog steps into your life, don't think it's only a pet. It is an angel cloaked in fur sent down to teach you how to love, how to forgive, how to live, and how to believe that true love never leaves. They came to walk beside you on this path, not forever in time, but forever in spirit. And when that day comes, when the last breath quietly leaves, you will not truly lose them. Because somewhere between the gentle light of heaven, they are still waiting for you. Tail softly wagging, eyes bright, and the unseen voice of God whispers, "I sent them to love you," and now they wait for you to come home. Welcome to the Paw Talk Central channel, where every story about dogs holds a kind of magic. Have you ever thought that the dog who entered your life wasn't just by chance? That it didn't just come home with you, or through adoption, or by chance one ordinary day, but was sent to the right place at the right time when your heart needed something humans couldn't give? It may sound unbelievable, but sometimes the most sacred gifts don't arrive with thunder and glory. They arrive with a warm breath, a gentle lick on your hand, or a pair of expressive eyes full of love. Remember the moment when you were tired, when the whole world seemed to turn its back on you. No one asked how you were. No one really understood you. And then, it came. Quietly, it lay its head on your knee. The gaze said what 1,000 words could not. "I'm here. You're not alone." People call it instinct, but maybe it's a mission. Perhaps somewhere, among billions of souls, an invisible hand chose to send to you a small being that knows how to love through silence, how to heal by simply showing up, and knows faithfulness to the end. Today, we'll step beyond chance, to look deeper into the spiritual truth behind the friendship between humans and dogs. Why do they show up just when we're weakest? Why can they reach places human speech cannot? And what hides behind that look of loyalty that makes millions believe dogs are not just pets, they are gifts from God? Because this isn't just a story about friendship. It's a story about an invisible bond, the tie between the human heart and the unconditional love God wants us to feel through the form of a four-legged friend with a heart that loves in silence. Section 1. The Guardian. By the fire. Long before humans knew the word pet, before there were houses, leashes, or ceramic bowls, there were long nights and a fire's glow. In that darkness, humans huddled around embers, trembling at the wind and the distant cry of wild beasts, and at the edge of the light, there were other eyes watching, not the gaze of a predator, but that of silent night watchers. They had no names, no masters. They simply stood there, between darkness and light, between instinct and faith, as though waiting for a signal to approach. And then, somehow it happened. A look, a piece of meat thrown, a warm breath meeting another, and the first invisible bond was formed. No contract, no binding, just a recognition. I am no longer alone. From that night on, dogs entered the human world, not as servants, but as guardians. They lay beside the fire, heard the human heartbeat during sleep, protected in silence. When morning came, they rose and walked alongside, hunted together, shared life together. Ancient people didn't need words to understand. These creatures didn't just live next to humans, they lived for humans. The Egyptians carved dogs on tomb walls, believing they guided souls to peaceful places. The Greeks placed them at the side of a goddess, guarding the gate between life and death. In remote tribes, dogs were not just companions, they were dream guides, defined as symbols of faithful souls. Perhaps long ago, humans already knew something we're gradually forgetting today. That dogs aren't only born to live with us, but to remind us of who we are. We've replaced the fire with screens, the forest with concrete walls, yet one thing hasn't changed. They still wait at the door, still quietly lie by our bed, still hear the sadness we try to hide. It seems across thousands of years, they never forgot their role, the guardian of the human soul. And maybe that's the first reason why God sent them. Not to serve, but to remind us that in a world full of noise and fear, there still exists a warm fire, nestled in the heart of the one always waiting for us to come home. Nishpatam Section 2. Healing in Silence. Hospitals always carry a distinct smell: antiseptic, white linens, and a cold, hard-to-name scent. The smell of fear and waiting. In that place, there are rooms so silent you can hear ventilators, clocks ticking, and sometimes the sigh of someone clinging to hope. Then a door quietly opens. The soft taps of little paws on the floor. A dog enters. No prescription, no comforting words. It just walks to the nearest bed, lays its head on the hand of someone trembling, and settles down. No words spoken, yet the whole room seems to change color. A patient smiles after many days of silence. An old person slowly strokes the soft fur. A child undergoing chemotherapy looks at it and then laughs. Science calls this animal-assisted therapy. Studies from Harvard University and the National Institutes of Health (NIH) show when humans touch dogs, their bodies release oxytocin, the love hormone, which helps lower blood pressure, reduce anxiety, and slow the heartbeat. But perhaps the thing science can't measure is the moment when someone on the verge of giving up opens their eyes again, just because they felt a warm presence beside them. Dogs don't ask, "How are you?" They don't distinguish between doctor or patient or care how long you'll live. They just lie there, breathe with you, silently, yet they speak more than any words. In their breath there is a rhythm of peace. In their eyes there is acceptance. And in their presence there's a miracle no drug can replace, the feeling that you are still loved. There were long nights when therapy dogs lay quietly at the foot of dying patients, not moving an inch. Some stayed 3 days beside their late owners. Some returned to the same hospital every morning just to wait for the person who once petted them. People may call this instinct, but perhaps it's a kind of intuition, a silent covenant between human soul and the soul of loyalty. Maybe God sent these beings not only to keep our bodies warm, but to keep our spirits warm during the coldest dark periods. They don't heal with words, they heal with presence. They don't use rationale, they use love. And in this noisy world, perhaps that is the language of heaven, the silence that knows how to love. Because sometimes what redeems a person is not a hand pulling them up, it's a peaceful breath beside them, whispering, "It's okay, I'm here with you." Section 3. The Lesson from Soft Fur. After a long day, you open the door and step into your home. Nobody asks questions, nobody judges. There's only the sound of claws clicking, a tail wagging furiously, and eyes shining with joy. You're home, that's enough. Whether you're sad or happy, successful or defeated, in its world you are still someone worthy of love. No conditions, no reasons, just love. Dogs cannot speak, yet every day they teach us a lesson. They teach us how to live in the present, to forgive before being asked, to love without fear of being hurt. When we chase success, they only need a stroke. When we fear judgment, they only need us to smile. And when we feel lonely, they only need to lie still beside us to remind us we were never truly alone. People say, "My dog saved me," but maybe they didn't pull us out of the fire. They taught us how to breathe within the fire. That is their teaching. Love wholeheartedly, live fully, and forgive unconditionally. And perhaps that is also why God sent them, to remind us that true love doesn't need to be perfect, it just needs to be present. Section 4. When Heaven Sends Help. Sometimes miracles don't come with thunder, but with the soft sound of little paws on the floor. Have you ever noticed that your dog appeared just when you were weakest? When you'd lost someone, when you felt you had nowhere to turn, and then it walked in, gently, as if it knew the places where your heart was cracking. People call that coincidence, but maybe it was arrangement, as if someone above knew that one day you would fall, and so sent a small being to wait for you. It doesn't ask, doesn't counsel, doesn't try to fix things. It just sits beside you, watches you cry, breathes with you, as if bearing part of your pain that you couldn't speak. And when you begin to calm down, you realize there are angels without wings, but with fur, 4 paws, and a heart that knows how to love in silence. So, if one day you feel life is cold, look down at your feet. Maybe heaven already sent help, you just haven't noticed yet. Chapter. Section 5. The Silent Companion in Grief. After loss, the world often becomes too quiet. Not peaceful, it's the kind of silence that weighs heavily on the heart. Relatives, friends, they all go back to their lives, and you are left with an emptiness that no one can fill. And then, in a little corner of the room, there's still one being that stays. It doesn't say words of comfort, doesn't ask questions. It just lies quietly, its eyes looking at you with an understanding rarely found in humans. Dogs don't try to make you forget your pain. They just sit beside you as if saying, "You don't have to get over this right now. I will stay with you." They stay awake with you during long nights, lie at your bedfoot when you cry, and every now and then touch your hand softly, as if a tiny reminder, you are still loved. No words, no plan, just presence, steadfast, warm, unconditional. And sometimes that very simplicity saves us from nights that seemed impossible to survive. People call it loyalty, but maybe it's more than that. It's a kind of sacred love where a small soul helps carry part of the loneliness the human heart cannot bear. Maybe that's why God sent them, not to erase the sorrow, but to walk through it with us. Because sometimes, the only thing keeping a person in life is a small breath lying quietly beside them. Chapter 6. Section 6. The Friend of Soldiers. There are wars that don't end when the gunfire stops. Many soldiers return home, but their souls remain trapped on the battlefield, where explosions, smoke, and painful memories still chase them in sleep. For them, peace isn't peace, it's something lost. Then one day, a dog walks into their life. No rank, no mission, it just is. Eyes gentle, ears listening, a heart that never judges. At first, it's just a silent companion, but gradually the soldier begins to sleep more soundly. Nightmares ease. A smile returns. Not because of pills, but because of the warmth from that little being lying on his chest each time a panic attack hit. Some studies show veterans with dogs undergo significant reductions in PTSD symptoms and negative thoughts. But people in the trenches say something simpler. My dog saved me more than any doctor ever did. Because while humans attempt healing with talk, dogs heal with presence. They don't need to understand trauma, they just need to stay. Maybe in those souls who faced darkness, God sent a small light in the form of a dog. Not to forget war, but to remember there is still something worth living for. Love, loyalty, and compassion. Section 7. Each step is a prayer. When people grow old, the world seems to shrink. Several steps slower, the house becomes too quiet, and some mornings there's no reason to get up. But then, in a corner of the room, there is a familiar sound. The leash lightly rattles, little paws tap the floor, a warm, patient look as though saying, "Come on, you're up now." And you stand. At first, just a few steps to the mailbox. Then gradually, a loop around the small block. With each outing, the breath becomes lighter, the heartbeat slows, and something inside begins to live again. Doctors can measure heart rate, count steps, but they cannot measure the moment you realize it was that little being who kept you holding on to life. No grand gesture needed, just a leash, a bowl of breakfast, an expectant look, and you again have a reason to smile, to walk, to exist. Many people think they're caring for a dog, but actually, the dog is quietly caring for their soul. It teaches you that every step, even the smallest, is a thank you lifted to the sky, because you're still here and someone is still waiting. So next time you walk your dog, remember, you're not just walking, you're praying with your steps. Section 8. The Last Friend. In life, we all reach a point when we have to say goodbye. Friends drift away, relatives stay busy, promises fade, the house once full of laughter becomes quiet. And in that space of emptiness, there is still one little being unwilling to leave. It still lies in the familiar spot, still watches your every step. Whether you succeed or fail, no matter how you change, with it, you are still the one. It doesn't love the strong version of you. It loves the weak, the tired, the fallen. People often say, as loyal as a dog, but that loyalty isn't just waiting. It's love that never expires. Love that doesn't need to be returned, doesn't need to be understood, is simply given. When the world turns its back, it still lies there quietly, as though affirming that love still exists, no matter how fragile. And sometimes, that silence alone is enough to mend the cracks in the human heart. Maybe God sent them to remind us that even when people change, there is still a love that will never abandon us, a love shaped like gentle eyes and a heart that knows how to stay. Section 9. A sacred symbol. Long before humans called them pets, dogs were seen as guardians between two worlds. The Egyptians carved them into tomb walls, believing they guided souls through darkness to a place of peace. In Greek mythology, dogs stood beside the goddess Hecate, guardian at the crossroads of life and death. In ancient Celtic lands, they were called the souls of loyalty, protectors of the lost. Whether in religion or myth, they always appear in the same position, just beside the boundary of the sacred. Not at the center, not at the highest place, but close by, silent, waiting, observing. Perhaps that is why when we look into a dog's eyes, we often feel something indescribable, as though it knows more than it shows, as though in that gaze there's a spark from somewhere humans have forgotten, a piece of heaven still left on earth. When it sits beside us in sad times, when it looks out at nothing we can see, maybe it's hearing something sacred our ears cannot touch. Perhaps God does not always speak through thunder or miracles. Sometimes He chooses a gentler way, sending a being who loves in silence and reminding us that He is still here through the gaze of loyal eyes. Section 10. The Ritual of Presence. Every morning when you wake, there is a small ritual waiting. The claws click softly on the floor, the head nudges your hand, the eyes light up as though saying, "Good morning, here we are together again." Dogs live by routine, eat, walk, bask in sun, then curl up in a familiar corner. But to them, it's not repetition, it's gratitude. They don't tire because every day is a new gift. When you pour water, they look at you as if it's magic. When you fill their bowl, they rejoice as though it's the first time they've eaten. They teach us that sometimes the most sacred doesn't live in a church or in prayer. It lives in the small things repeated each day when we are truly present. In a fast-paced world, dogs are mirrors of presence. They don't think of tomorrow, don't regret yesterday. They just exist, fully, peacefully, and complete. Perhaps God sent them to teach us that lesson. Each meal is a thank you. Each touch is a prayer. And every moment together, that is a miracle. Section 11. The One Who Hears the Soul. There are things we've never spoken. Fears hidden in laughter, sadness buried in, "I'm fine." Emptiness no one touches, only sighs echoing in an empty room. Then a quiet being sits close. It doesn't ask, it's not curious. It just lies down beside you, ears slightly lowered, eyes looking deep as though it understands what you haven't yet uttered. Dogs don't hear with ears. They hear with the heart. They sense the sadness in your breath, see the fatigue in your steps, and instead of trying to fix you, they simply stay, fully, unconditionally. In a noisy world, sometimes what we need isn't someone to advise, but someone who listens without judgment. And dogs are like that. They are the quiet friend who hears even the things we dare not speak. Perhaps God created their ears not just to hear calls, but to hear the human soul. Not the sound, but the heartbeat, the emptiness, the thing unsaid. And maybe that is why, on days when we are at our weakest, we reach for them before we reach for prayer. Because there we know we will be heard, understood, and loved without saying anything at all. Section 12. From Puppy to Guardian Angel. Every story begins with a small start, and perhaps the friendship between you and your dog is just that. A round pair of eyes, a clumsy little body, a gentle lick on your hand. You think you're caring for it, but in fact, from that moment, it began watching you. It learned your voice, learned how you breathe, learned when you're sad though you don't say it. It grows with you, through moves, birthdays, lonely nights, the times you cry in the dark. And before long, it's not just a pet, but a part of your memories, a witness to your life. Then one day you realize it's growing old. The steps slow, the eyes dim, the breath heavier. You know time has less left, but you're still not ready to say goodbye. Then, in the quietest moment, it gently lays its head on your hand, as though saying, "It's time for you to move on. I have done my job." People say dogs don't fear death because they understand more than anyone that love never disappears. It only changes form. When you look around the now empty house, hear the familiar footsteps only in memory, you suddenly realize they never really left. They just moved into another presence, quiet, gentle, but still by your side, in every breath of life. Maybe every dog who enters our life carries a mission. Teach us to love, teach us to forgive, teach us to be present, and finally, teach us how to let go with love, not fear. So when you see another dog on the street, eyes meeting yours, and your heart stirs a little, don't turn away. It might not be a new beginning, but a continuation of an old love, a little angel returning to remind you that true love never ends. From the first fire in the ancient night to the warm home of today, dogs have walked with humans for thousands of years. They don't speak a word, yet somehow they speak the deepest language, the language of love and presence. They show up when we're joyful, when we've lost, when we're broken. They hear things we cannot say and stay when everyone else leaves. And sometimes, just with one look, they make us believe we are still loved, we are still seen, we still matter, even when the world has forgotten our name. Maybe that is the message God wants to send, that His love isn't only in prayer, but in every small step, every warm breath, every silent touch of a loyal soul. So next time you hear soft paws behind you or feel a familiar warmth beside you, pause a moment. Don't take it for granted. Look deeper, because maybe you are being reminded of something sacred, that God's love is still here in the form of a dog. Now, I'd like to hear your story. What has your dog taught you? Share in the comments, because maybe your small story will be the spark that helps someone else find their way through the darkness. And if this video touched you, stay with Paw Talk Central, because the journey to discover the messengers of love has only just begun. Do you think dogs only know how to say thank you by wagging their tail? Not quite. Out there's an old man living quietly in a small house. 6 winters ago, he lost the wife he loved most. Since then, he speaks very little. But every evening when the lamp in the living room has grown dim, his dog Duke quietly lies down at his feet, in the same spot, quiet as always. No words are spoken, yet everything has been said. He never demanded gratitude. Yet Duke still sends his thank you in its own way, by presence, by a gaze, by the warmth around his lonely owner's feet. And your dog is doing the same every day. Dogs don't say thank you in human words. They say it by action. Tiny gestures, moments that seem so ordinary but carry so much feeling. A slow sideways glance, a soft nudge with the nose, a quiet breath beside you, a sleep turn toward the door. 10 of those small things. Those are the 10 ways dogs say thank you to humans, not with words, but with their hearts. And once you recognize it, you will never look at your dog the same way again. Part 1. The sacred gift. The old toy. You sit in a chair, your coffee cup cooling in your hand. Outside, the wind is still, the TV plays low-key news. Then suddenly your dog slowly comes over, carrying in its mouth an old toy worn at the edges, drool-marked, and places it softly at your feet. You smile quietly, bend down, pick it up, toss it aside as habit. Maybe you think it simply wants to play. But no, this is not so simple. That toy to you, it's just an old thing, but to it, it's a treasure. It's inseparable companion, something cherished for so long. And today it brings that to you, places it into your care with all the trust it has. That is not an invitation to play. That is its way of saying, you matter to me. I'm grateful for you. Behavior experts call this affiliative behavior. But to those of us who truly love dogs, we understand that it's a thank you hidden in an act. Dogs don't use words to say thank you. They say it by a gift, by the simplest object in their loyal world. You may not remember anything special you did today. Maybe you just refilled their water bowl or spoke softly when they made a mistake. But they remember. And when they place that old toy at your feet, that's their declaration, I know, I feel it, and I am grateful. Don't rush to throw that toy away, don't dismiss it as play. Because in their eyes, that toy is sacred, a symbol of gratitude they cannot speak. And if you pay attention, you will see after each such gift, there is a small story of love. Because sometimes a dog's gratitude doesn't lie in a bark, but in an old toy set gently at your feet. Part 2. The kiss after the meal. Have you ever noticed what happens right after your dog finishes eating? Not 5 minutes later. Not after they've rested, but immediately after licking the last drop of sauce from the bowl. At that moment, with belly full, they turn and seek you, slowly, gently, and then a soft lick on your hand or a gentle nose touch to your forearm. Many of us might think, oh, it wants more food. But that's not it. That is how they say, thank you for the meal. Behavior researchers say this action originates in puppyhood, when puppy dogs lick their mother's face after feeding. not to ask for more milk, but to show attachment and gratitude. When grown, they never drop the habit. Only the subject changes. Now you become mother in their little circle, the source of safety, the warmth they trust. That light lick after a meal isn't a habit, it's a ritual of thanks. A gesture so simple yet full of memory and emotion. And what's remarkable, the dog never forgets those who provide for it and care for it. Next time when you wash their dish and see they come closer, don't push them away. Let them touch your hand just for a moment. Because in that moment, you've just received a thank you in the language of the heart. Don't skip that moment, because it's not just the kiss after dinner, it's the way they say, I am happy because I have you. Part 3. The Silent Shadow. You step from the living room into the kitchen. Your dog rises and quietly follows. You go into the bathroom, the door closes. When you open it again, there it is lying quietly at the threshold, just like a shadow. You did not call, you did not coax. It just followed you, step by step. Many will think that's just routine or because it expects food or attention, but the truth is sweeter. Dogs aren't following you for benefit. They follow out of gratitude. Researchers call this seeking proximity, the need to be near the person they trust most. But if you've lived long with a dog, you'll understand it's more than seeking closeness. It's seeking you. It doesn't just feel safe when near you. It feels that you make the world safe. Every step you take, it wants to orbit around you like a small planet around the only star it trusts. No call, no reward necessary. Just being where you are is enough. That is not dependence. That is how it says, I am grateful you are here. And I want to be by your side no matter what. Because to it, loyalty is an instinct. It is a silent thank you repeated every day in the rhythm of your footsteps. And occasionally, you don't need to say a word. Just look back, see it there, and you will understand that one small creature is saying, thank you for giving me a place to belong. Part 4. The guard's sleep night falls. The house subsides into stillness. You lie down. The amber light falls softly on the wooden floor. In the corner of the room, your dog curls up. It seems to be sleeping, but if you observe closely, its ears still twitch, its eyes half closed. It's not sleeping deeply. It's standing guard. It could choose a softer chair or a warmer corner, but it chooses to lie near you between you and the door. Not by chance. That is the spot of a guardian, a silent soldier watching over the one it loves. You protected it all day, you fed it, stroked it, soothed it when thunder roared. Now it repays you, not with gifts, not with words, but with presence. It sleeps, but only half of its body is at rest. The other half remains ready for anything that might come. For humans, that is just asleep. But for it, it's a promise, I will not allow anything to touch the one I love while they sleep. And maybe it is at that moment your eyes close. But another pair of eyes remain open, not out of fear, but out of love. That night, you sleep deep. And it lies there, its guards rest, light still waiting. And sometimes just knowing that is enough to soften our heart. Part 5. The slow blink. Have you ever been sitting quietly, your mind drifting somewhere else, and then noticed your dog's eyes looking at you? Not the eager look asking for a walk, nor the expecting gaze for food, but a quiet look, gentle, steady, and then slowly it blinks. Once, very softly. You might think it's sleepy. But no, that moment is no accident. That is how a dog says, I am calm because you are here. I trust you. Behavior scientists call this the trust gaze. When a dog looks at you for a long time with mild eyes and slow blink, it's a sign of deep connection. It doesn't have to jump into your lap, lick your hand, just a blink, and the world is warm. That slow blink is like a small thank you sent quietly. It is not saying, thank you for feeding me. It says, thank you for being here. Because you make me feel safe. If the next time you meet that gaze, don't look away. Blink back slowly, just once. That is your way of responding, I trust you too. No words, no grand gesture. Just two beings facing each other, sharing a slow blink, and between them flows gratitude, love, a bond that words cannot touch. And from that small moment, you will realize a dog's love is not loud. It only needs a glance to say everything. Part 6. The Gentle Nose. Touch. 1. Quiet evening, you've just patted your dog behind the ear. It's drifting into doe's head, tilted, savoring each second. You stop, stretch your arm, just about to move away, and then a small talk, a soft nudge with the nose on your arm. It doesn't bark, doesn't demand. It just touches you gently, just enough for you to turn your head. Many will think that's play me or pet me more. The reality is more subtle. That soft nudge is how it says, thank you. Do a little more. I like this. That nudge isn't a random act. It is emotional feedback. Like a friend giving your shoulder a soft tap after a long story, no words, but enough to say, I appreciate that. Dogs live by feeling. They sense your heartbeat, your breath, the subtle shift in every move you make. So when they touch you with their nose, gentle as a musical note, it isn't just affection. It's gratitude sent forth, wrapped in a brief touch, yet immensely meaningful. Often those nudges come in the most peaceful moments, after you've patted them after a long day, or simply when you sit quietly and your mind is a little worn. And just when you thought you were all alone, it nudges you again as if saying, I'm here. I understand. And thank you for still being here. Don't overlook that moment, because in the dog's world, a small nudge can replace 1,000 words of love they cannot speak. Part 7. The Quiet Lean. Dogs don't always say thank you by wagging their tail or by a joyful bark. Sometimes they just quietly walk over, no bark, no fuss, then lean softly on your leg. Not heavy, not forced, just enough for you to feel their warmth through your clothes. A quiet lean so subtle that if you didn't notice, you might think it's accidental. But no, it isn't. In the dog's world, leaning is a sign of absolute trust. In nature, dogs lean on each other to keep warm, to share the feeling of safety in cold nights. When they lean on you, it means you are their pack, the one they come to when they need strength, when they need a heart that listens without words. Sometimes that lean comes after a long day. Maybe you didn't say a thing, but it knows you're tired. It simply comes over quietly, places its weight on your leg as if saying, it's okay, I'm here. That lean isn't a request, it's a thank you. A thank you for being their support, literally and figuratively. Behavior scientists call this comfort behavior, a natural soothing action. But if you ask any dog lover, they'll say something different. It's the moment your heart softens because you realize the truest love often comes from a creature that cannot lie. So next time it leans against you, quietly don't move away. Sit still, take a deep breath, and let you both stay silent in that warmth. Because for it, that's not just leaning on you, it's saying, thank you, because I know I belong here. And when that stillness fades, sometimes it bursts into surprising joy, like that little heart just can't hold its emotion anymore. Part 8. The Joy Burst. You open the door and before you can say anything, your dog shoots out like a gust of wind. 4 legs spin around, running circles, mouth open as if its smiling tail wagging so wildly it seems about to fly off. The rug gets tossed, your slippers get knocked to the side, and you just stand there stunned and smiling. People call that zoomies, those sudden bursts of fun from dogs. But behind that chaos lies a very beautiful message. It's how it says thank you in the most joyful, pure, and sincere way. That running frenzy isn't because it's too energetic. It's the emotion bursting out joy that couldn't be contained because it felt loved, safe, free to be itself. Dogs only zoom like that with someone they truly trust, because only when it feels totally safe does it dare to let go and show its full happiness. Look carefully. Those bursts often follow very small moments after you say good boy, after you walk together, or simply after you come home from a long day. To it, every time you open the door is a miracle. Every return is a cry of thank goodness you're here. And when it runs around you, eyes bright, breath, heavy, heart pounding, that isn't silliness. It is a dance of gratitude, a thank you sent out by the purest joy only a dog can give. So next time it runs, circles like it's lost control, don't shout. Smile. Because in every spin, every wildly wagging tail, it's shouting, I love you and thank you for giving me the chance to feel this happy. Part 9. The Nest. Scented with you. Have you ever wondered why your dog chooses to lie on your shirt or curl up on your shoes you left by the door? Amid all the comfy places, it picks the old sweater you changed out of, or the corner of the couch you always sit in. You might laugh. Why there? There's better cushions, but to it that's a ritual of love. For dogs, scent is memory. It is the first language they learn of this world. And among thousands of scents, they know yours is unique, the scent of home, peace, and gratitude. When it lies on your shirt, it means it's seeking the safety that scent brings. It's not just looking for warmth, it's saying, I miss you. I am grateful you exist in my life. Behavior studies show that the owner's scent can lower a dog's heart rate and stress levels similar to how we feel calm listening to a familiar song. When you're away, that old shirt becomes an invisible bridge helping them feel you are still there. And if you watch carefully, you'll notice they often do this after you have been kind to them, after a walk, a good meal, or simply a peaceful day. By lying on your scented item, they are prolonging the good feeling you gave them just a little longer. Because for dogs, thank you isn't a spoken word. It's how they hold your scent. Close inhale deeply and sleep peacefully, as if in their small world, you are the safest place to come home to. And sometimes that gratitude doesn't just show through actions or scent, but lies deeper in their ability to feel your emotion even when you haven't spoken a word. Part 10. The Emotional Radar. There are days when you don't say anything. No laugh, no cry, you just sit quietly, your eyes staring into some empty space. You think you've hidden your sadness, but then a soft footstep emerges. Not loud, not hurried. Your dog comes over, places its head gently on your knee, or just leans its head on your hand. You didn't call for it, you didn't signal, but it knows. No one understands why dogs sense that so clearly. Scientists can talk about breath, heart rate, sense of stress hormones when humans are sad. But perhaps there are things that cannot be measured, because between you and it there is an invisible thread where emotions touch without words. When you tremble inside, it comes closer. When you are quiet for too long, it breathes softly and steadily beside you as if lending you its calm. It doesn't try to fix your sadness. It simply stays there, at the exact place you need, at the exact moment you have no voice left. Some veterans have said, I didn't realize I was falling apart until my dog laid its head on my hand. An older widow said, I thought I was completely alone until it walked over, sat next to me, said nothing. Yet my heart felt warmed. Dogs sense what we try to hide. And each time it steps over, lightly touches, quietly lies beside you, each time it says, I am here. Don't fear. I know you are hurting. And thank you for being with me. That isn't instinct alone. That is love forged through time, turned into a wondrous sense, an emotional radar that only a truly loving heart could possess. And when you look up, catch its eyes, clear, gentle, full of empathy, you'll realize it's not just saying, thank you. It's saying, you saved me. And now let me save you. 10 ways. Dogs say thank you. Simple to hear, but behind each action lies a world of love and loyalty. An old toy, a gentle lick after dinner, a slow blink, a soft nose touch, or the way it leans by your side. All are thank yous with no words spoken by the small, sincere heart of a dog. They don't know how to write letters or say grand words. They don't need to, because every day in their own way they whisper, thank you for letting me be part of your world. And if you ever feel life is too heavy, just look into their eyes. You will see gratitude can be that simple, just a gaze, a breath, a presence. You are not just their owner. You are their family, the center of their whole little universe. And sometimes you believe you rescued a dog, but in truth it is quietly rescuing your heart day by day. If you've ever recognized that, if you have ever looked at your dog and smiled because you felt loved, then share your story in the comments. Because maybe your story will make someone else smile on a sad day. And if you'd like to hear more beautiful stories like this about love, loyalty, and the bond between humans and dogs, stay with us. Because in the next videos, you'll see, sometimes just one dog is enough to make a life less lonely.